Adele Miskie. I'm an Epsilon Alpha from Penn State University, and I'm an AAC member at Columbia Barnard with Alpha Chapter, and I work on Broadway. My current profession is under the title Theatrical Wardrobe, and my specific job title is that I'm a dresser. And what this means is that I change the costumes of actors and actresses backstage on different Broadway shows. I can also work with costumes in a shop, or I can actually work on either a movie or a television too. But backstage live theater is my passion and what I love to do the most. I did not go to school for theatrical wardrobe or anything related to the theater arts. I just loved it. I was passionate about theater, and we were always exposed to the arts growing up. And I was doing a completely different job, and I started to get really stressed out, and I started to get really unhappy with the career that I was in. And so, even without a plan, I just knew that I had to get out of that uncomfortable situation and change my life. So I was approached by a friend who just said, you know, what are you doing? And I said, I'm looking for a new job. And she said to me, well, what's your dream job? And I said, oh, well, my dream job would be to work with costumes, like on Broadway or something. And she said, well, why don't you do that? And it was like someone hit me in the face. I thought, I don't know how to do that. And I, little by little, just started networking and asking people questions. And I had an information interview in Philadelphia at the Walnut Street Theater. And those people that I met helped me get on the path, so that in a 2-year period of time, I quit that job that I was very unhappy in, and I was backstage on my first Broadway show. What helped me get here was, number one, the support of my parents to give up a position where I had health benefits and a car and an apartment to basically just run away and join the circus to try and figure this out of how I could have a life and how I could support myself in live theater. My favorite project that I've worked on is My Fair Lady, which is the last show that I dressed here at Lincoln Center in the Vivian Beaumont Theater. The Lincoln Center is my favorite place to work because the stage is huge. The amount of wing space, the amount of dressing room space, and it's just always the most professional and amazing productions. The hardest project that I worked on was actually a television show. I was fortunate enough to be a day player, which means you just work a couple days at a time when they need you, on the pilot of Boardwalk Empire. All of the costumes were vintage, and I prepared an almost entire floor of a warehouse of so many costumes of vintage clothing, and it was just really challenging and a lot of work, but when I got to see some of it, it was just beautiful, and I was glad to be a part of it. Also, with Boardwalk Empire, getting to be on the set a little bit, we had a night shoot, and because it was a period piece, there are no airplanes or helicopters, so every time one would fly over New York City, we'd have to cut and start all over again. So also, they just do as many takes as they need, and so I do believe I was up for a 2-day period with that. And there are challenges in professional theater too. The technical rehearsals are when you are practicing and everyone's trying to find where their costume changes are and how much time or not how much time you have for them. And so those are also taxing, but it's always a great payoff when you see the final product. I'm the most proud of being able to say that I have worked on shows that have won Tony Awards. That is the highest award that is given in American theater, and to be a part of that collaboration in those projects is one of the things I'm most proud of. Being an alumni member of AOII is one of the greatest things and the greatest joys in my life. To be on the AAC at Columbia Barnard, not only for the historical value that it is Alpha Chapter, where our 4 founders started, Alpha Omicron Pi, but just working with the women, and it keeps me young, it gives me energy. I am so proud of them, and just knowing that they have a situation in this day and age so different than when I went to college, that they are juggling everything and finding their paths too, with extra added pressures of just things that are going on in this day and age. My greatest AOPI memory is being a colony member of Epsilon Alpha when it was reinstalled at Penn State University. And our chapter advisor was Pat Anilowski, and she's still the chapter advisor. And recently being at Northeast Weekend as a member of the AAC with Alpha chapter, sitting next to her as the advisor for Epsilon Alpha just really made it a full circle for me that she was my advisor, and now I'm one of the advisors on the AAC. Inspire ambition is twofold for me. The first, it means when others inspire my ambition, and this would be all of the collegians and all of the women who are AOPI sisters on their college campuses now. I just love working with the Alpha chapter members and seeing all that they juggle, and they inspire me by keeping me current, by keeping me energized, just by going on campus. And also, I hope I can inspire ambition in others. I'm being approached about what it's like to work in the entertainment industry and what it's like to work on the grueling 8-show per week Broadway schedule, and also inspiring them that if they're not happy, that they should change whatever is making them unhappy and to follow their dream always. A piece of advice that I'd like to tell an AOPI who is just getting ready to graduate or who is recently graduated is that I really feel that the job interview, while important, is overrated, and an information interview is underrated. To really understand the day-to-day, day-in, day-out work tasks that you are being trained for and what you're studying for, you should really talk to a person who actually does that. What better vehicle than your AOPI network? And that could be in the city that you're in or anywhere in the country, and for that matter, anywhere in the world. Being an Alpha Omicron Pi gives you that lifelong built-in network, not only for your career, but for life and advice and fellowship and comfort throughout your entire life. And I know it's sometimes really hard for collegians to believe that it even gets better after you graduate, but it does. And so if you have a moment that you can find a person who does the job that you are studying for, spend 15, 20, 30 minutes with them, asking them, what is your day like? And better yet, go to their job and see it, because I think there's nothing worse than being in a job where you are unhappy. The other thing I would say to a person who is ready to graduate or has just graduated is that a follow-up thank you note as a handwritten note means so much to the recipient, anyone that helps you along the way. Because in this day of texting and messaging, I think we're losing that personal connection. And I think that when you receive a card with a handwritten note, it's just a lovely gesture and a very sisterly thing to do. One thing I learned about working in the entertainment industry is the value of storytelling and live theater. I always thought, oh, how great to be in the entertainment industry and to make people laugh or make people smile or have people enjoy music if it's a musical. But I learned something very, very important, and I learned it on 9/11. I was in New York during 9/11, and we thought, oh my gosh, with a completely empty Times Square and the theater's all dark for 2 days, who's ever going to come to New York again? Who's ever going to come to a Broadway show? The producer of the show that I was working on, the revival of 42nd Street, gave tickets away, and our first night back at the Ford Center for 42nd Street were the wives and children of fallen firefighters. I learned nothing more that night than how important my job was backstage, making sure that the onstage people looked their best to let those people have some sort of joy for 2.5 hours. Entertainment can be an escape. It can be therapeutic. It can take away sorrow, even if it's just a transport of 2 hours to laugh and smile. It can also be educational. And working on Waitress was another life-altering show that I worked on that explained how a show can inspire others to get out of an abusive relationship or to move on. So I learned that storytelling in theater is just so much more than entertainment.